Hello, Contrarians listeners, Contrarians watchers, Contrarians subscribers. Here we are on the eve of our 200th episode on the podcast main feed. So we figured we would build up to it. And as you can see by the title of this video, we're doing the Kill Bill saga. So part 1 is episode 199. Part 2 is going to be episode 200. That seems pretty straightforward. Of course, in order to complicate/enhance the experience on the actual podcast episode, we brought back an old friend, an old guest, an old collaborator, and somebody who I think agrees with our takes as often as he disagrees with them. We're talking, of course, about Chaz Fisher from the Draft Zero podcast, very accomplished podcaster / screenwriter / just friend of ours, friend of all of you. So if you want to hear what Chaz has to say about Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2, because we'll bring him back for the next one, that you can only get on the podcast. But here, this warm-up episode, this video, it's just what you can expect on our YouTube channel. We're going to do more Rotten Tomato quotes, more trivia, and of course, the Josh Gad Minute. Josh Gad fighting for his life in Kill Bill. That should be interesting. Alex, are you ready? Are you ready for some very fresh Rotten Tomatoes quotes about Kill Bill Volume 1?
What's it at? I forgot.
80s, right? 80 something? 86?
85% on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah,
right there. Certified fresh.
It is certified fresh with over 230 reviews. So yeah, what do you got for me?
Here we go. Let's start with PJ Navarro from Patrick Navarro. He says, the better of the two Kill Bill films, and perhaps the last film where Tarantino created a tight, tense, and disciplined exercise in film narrative.
Okay.
Did I pick these quotes to trigger Alex on video? Maybe.
It's possible. Sounds like it. Is that dated?
August 13th, 2019. What was going on in 2019 that this dude felt the need to log a Kill Bill Volume 1 review? I mean, it's not like, we have a reason.
That's August 2019. That's when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out.
There you go. All right. So actually, he has more of a reason than we do.
July 2019, yeah. So I guess he was trying to buck the trend of everyone loving that movie, and which hilariously is also 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, despite it being a substantially better movie than Kill Bill.
Is it though?
Yes.
We'll see. Next, Forrest Hartman from the Reno Gazette-Journal says, as wacky action-adventure movies go, this is a good film. But it's the type of work that more than a dozen Hollywood filmmakers could have turned out in less time than it took director Quentin Tarantino. It is fresh. He's just saying, man, why so long?
And this isn't even that long. This is tame by Tarantino standards.
But it felt, I guess, between Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and then between Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown, and then between Jackie Brown and Kill Bill.
I guess Reservoir Dogs is, I think that's just around an hour and a half, maybe 140. I mean, this isn't even 2 hours.
Oh, no. But he's talking about the time it took in between releases.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood that. Yes, we talk about that in the episode, and that's one of the big selling points for this is the fourth film by Quentin Tarantino, and how I think we did the math, and I think he's only had one other sabbatical that's been this long, and for the world of fire he was after Jackie Brown, it's kind of surprising there was that long of layover.
Do you remember when Funny People was touted as the fourth film from Judd Apatow?
Was it really?
You don't remember?
No.
Actually, was it his fourth? His third?
Yeah, it would have been the third because it was 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Okay,
and Knocked Up. And
even worse then. The third film from director Judd Apatow, Funny People.
And then the universe, the world collectively saw that and was like, oh.
Maybe leave that to Tarantino.
Yeah.
I am surprised I didn't bring that up during the episode, but there was a lot going on. There's three people.
I mean, there's similar to Kill Bill. There are things in Funny People that are good, and there's some good performances. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Kill Bill's way better than Funny People, and it's about 6 hours shorter. So,
Okay, you were scaring me. You were scaring me.
No, you can make the comparisons, I suppose, if you wanted to.
Maybe
you got us here, Julio, so I had to pull it back together.
Well, I was gonna say, as far as like the ego, maybe at that time in their careers, like Tarantino versus Apatow.
But still, no one loves Knocked Up more than I do. But like the idea that he viewed himself on the same level as the guy who made Pulp Fiction, it's like, dude. And again, we don't know this. We're just talking mad shit about Judd like we usually do. But like,
maybe he was completely against the idea, and the studio was like, "Ah, no, I'm sorry."
Or, one point in my life, I would say he did it ironically and to be funny. But Judd Apatow is a millionaire that vanity searches on Twitter, so I don't think he did it ironically.
No. Sorry, no benefit of the doubt, Judd. But we still love Knocked Up. Next, Sean B. Means from the Salt Lake Tribune says, after nearly 2 hours of bloodshed, no matter how artfully presented, Tarantino owes us a little more than a to be continued tease.
Well, you can take that up with Harvey Weinstein, but I'm pretty sure he's indisposed at the moment. That was, Julio and I were talking about that before we started recording. That was a dispute / compromise with Miramax. Was, okay, man, you don't get to like butcher my movie. What if I just make 2 movies?
I know. I briefly touched on it during the episode, and I know we're going to talk about it even more once we do volume 2, but the idea that these movies as shot could work as a single movie is something that I can't quite wrap my mind around. I know that there's a cut, the whatever you call it, cut that has everything together, and I would love to watch it just to see if it actually works. I just don't know. It's not clear to me if he went into production knowing that it was going to be cut in 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that would explain why, when he gets to volume 2, he's like, I don't care because I don't have to make it match volume 1. I can just do whatever. It's its own movie.
The Whole Bloody Affair.
There you go.
Because we talk about that in the episode, because that version of it has the big ballroom massacre scene in color as opposed to the black and white, which kept it from an NC-17 rating.
Tarantino
Not unlike
unleashed.
The fan cut of the recent Halloween trilogy that cuts out all the supernatural aspects and completely removes the Corey character. And that, we have a long history with Halloween on this, but I loved reading that to Julio. I think we were recording, and Julio is not a fan of Halloween Kills or Ends, but he was annoyed that people were out there doing this.
And I shouldn't, whatever. It's your time. You're not even pushing it on me. Like I did, my co-host pushed it on me.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, the one that lost you was like the post for it that went viral said, "See this trilogy the way it's meant to be seen," and you're like, off. Go fuck yourself.
The entitlement. I mean, if you're doing it as a bit, I guess, but much like with Judd Apatow's title for Funny People, I think so. I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. So many people were just so hurt by it. But anyway, going back to the idea behind this post and the criticism, I guess, it just took me back to the time when these 2-part releases were not so all over the place. Like now, so many big releases are just like part 1. It's become the norm now, or at least it's a lot more mainstream. Yeah, I don't like it. At the same time, I also don't like super long movies. Do you
remember what the first movie was you saw that had a to be continued at the end? Like in the theater. I don't think it was the first one, but I have a very vivid memory of Matrix Reloaded at the end, the to be concluded.
But we knew.
Yeah, no, but still, when Kill Bill came out, it was called Volume 1, so
right.
People, But I remember kind of having
not in theaters, but I remember when I watched Back to the Future 2, I was like, I knew there was a third one, but it's like that one ends on a legit cliffhanger. Like you don't know what the hell's going. He's back in the 50s. He's so I remember that being kind of like a mind-blowing bit of business. Not so much with Kill Bill. I mean, like you said, we knew, and I was just like, all right.
I mean, obviously it's superhero movies are the things that has kind of poisoned this idea, but
It's
Man,
not the superhero movies. It's, if I'm gonna put it on anything, it's gonna be in book adaptations. I
that's a
think,
good call.
yeah, fucking Harry Potter, and I know it worked with Harry Potter. Like Harry Potter, it was like it's 7 books, but for the 7th movie, they're like, no, let's split it in 2. And I haven't read the book, so I can't really
Twilight.
make the
We did
argument.
all the Twilights on here.
Yes, yeah, Twilight. I mean, after that, it just kind of became a thing. Hunger Games. I'm sure the Maze Runner, whatever, adaptation. I think that they feel like at some point.
Well, here's the point we can say that
Okay.
Kill Bill is an example of it. Julio likes it more than I do, but you can do it even if people know it's coming. We joked about the Matrix, and then I mean the Dark Knight. We knew it was a trilogy, and the way it ended, it was like, fuck, I want it now. Like, and then there's other times where a movie can end on a cliffhanger, and you'll be like, go fuck yourself. But I think this one is definitively Tarantino, like the way it ends and the setup, like for the players at the end, like it ends like a video package for like a big sporting event where you see all the players that you're going to see at the game coming up, and it's
on the next Kill Bill.
Yeah, it's not just kind of like Kristen Stewart opens her eyes and they're red now. Young girls screaming.
Yeah, I don't remember what the reaction was because I watched this opening weekend, but I remember the reaction at the end of Kill Bill 1. It was like a gasp or a no or a ooh, but that's why you watch movies in theaters, or at least that's why you used to.
The end of the Iron Claw, where it was the Von Erichs will return, and people were like, "Oh my god!"
At the very end of the credits, one of the brothers, the brother that's not in the movie, shows up.
Chris, yeah. You guys think you're the only Von Erich?
All right. Let's get back to Kill Bill. We had 2 more quotes. Rob Vox from Flipside Movie Emporium says, Tarantino the genius is long gone. We'll have to settle for Tarantino the fairly interesting. What?
Man, that's yeah, that's pretty damning too, because we call out numerous times in the episode, Tarantino's an institution now. But again, this is only his 4th movie, and like the idea that he's washed in 2003 is ridiculous.
Yeah, I wonder if there's somebody who didn't like Jackie Brown. So for him, he already had the baggage. But
we call it out, and we called it out in the episode too. Like, you can't make a movie like Pulp Fiction be your 2nd movie and not expect people like you fuck yourself by being so good in that situation. And that's kind of I could see also, because Jackie Brown is very dialogue heavy, very what we come to expect from Tarantino, which I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to volume 2 more in like retrospect, but this is, if you look at all of his stuff, this is a departure from what he typically does. So this is him really excited. Like you can tell that he's really excited to be doing what he's doing, but this is these are outliers. I would proffer.
Yeah, especially now that we have a wider range in his filmography, we can be like, oh yeah, never really did anything like Kill Bill again. So yeah, like volume 1 specifically. But funny you bring up Pulp Fiction. Here we go. We're gonna close with somebody that liked Kill Bill a lot more than the last guy. Desmond Thompson from the Washington Post says, has matched, if not eclipsed, the power and scope of 1994's Pulp Fiction.
Well, I don't know about that. I would still argue to this day he hasn't made anything that has, and that's not from lack of fucking trying or anything. It's just like, that's, if you've anyone who's talked to me about movies for more than 10 minutes is, we've gotten into like, that's one of the keystone films ever made, for better and worse. A lot of bad trends came from it, but sorry, man. Sorry that you peaked on the phone with that.
Do you think, I just thought of this, and it's fucking with my head, swap their places in the filmography. Inglourious Basterds, which is my 2nd favorite Tarantino movie, Pulp Fiction is the 1st one. You swap Inglourious Basterds with Pulp Fiction. Would Inglourious Basterds be to pop culture what Pulp Fiction is in our timeline? Like, could Inglourious Basterds have made like a bigger impact if not for the fact that, well, we had Pulp Fiction, so that just set the bar incredibly high?
Like, all things being equal, I still don't think so. Like, it's a historical fiction, first off, and then like, you can't, even now, it's so fun to parody, and they get the shot, and the
Travolta, yeah,
everything Samuel L. Jackson says in that has been
That's
parodied
true.
to death. But at the time, it was very cool, like with all caps, cool, and that was like the marketing behind it. They were in the suits and shit, and the four of them, and then like Bruce Willis is really cool in it, and it's not often white people come across as cool. And the thing with Inglourious Bastards is, I mean, there would definitely be the appeal of Hitler getting murder fucked at the end of that movie, which is, I've always said, like, I'm not
Timeless.
yeah, I'm not as crazy about that movie as some people, but like that being the payoff is so awesome. Just him getting like machine gunned in the face. But that movie's more driven by like evil, specifically in the form of Christoph Waltz and whatnot. And Brad Pitt's effortlessly cool and everything. So I don't think so, but I think it would be an interesting. So the biggest thing I would come across as saying is that Pulp Fiction penetrated pop culture in a way where for 20 years afterwards, if you parodied it, if you exhibited parodic activity revolving around it, everyone recognized what it was. I don't think people would have been as anxious to parody a movie about like Nazis and shit. So that would be my argument.
Yeah, it sounded.
I can't see a Simpsons episode that parodies Milhouse carving a swastika into someone's forehead.
Yes. Well, it was an idea, a half-baked idea that came into my head, and I was like, I need to say it, just to see if it makes sense.
That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Imagine if fucking Funny People was Judd Apatow's first movie and not 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Dude, we will not let this go.
He would have been ridden out of Hollywood on a train.
Who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah.
Get your wife and your daughters out of here.
A big sticker that said straight to VHS and stuck it on him, and then being like, get the fuck out of our town.
I just said your wife and daughters, they're not in Funny People, right? Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, his wife is. Anyway, those were the quotes. We went everywhere there, and now we're going to go somewhere else. We're going to go to the Josh Gad Minute. That is a segment of the warm-up where we place Josh Gad in the movie. We'll take somebody out and we put Josh Gad in. Alex, before you even say anything, I think that the easy one, which we're not going to do, is Buck.
Yes.
I don't need to see Josh Gad playing Buck. So what's the next option?
I'm getting rid of David Carradine.
I mean, he's barely in the movie.
Oh, to the credit. Well, I mean, he's Ed Harris in Truman Show. He's the omnipotent force. I would do James Parks, who is the son of the Texas Ranger, who won't stop lipping off. And again, he just has the one scene or whatever. But Gad could probably get some mileage out of that, just with his. He doesn't do it too often, but his character on Modern Family does it, where he just kind of rapid fire, won't stop talking and shit. And so I could see that working. To the credit of this movie, it's a very male light film. And yeah, I don't.
So you're not gonna have Josh Gad replace Vivica Fox?
No, I don't. We typically don't do the gender swapping thing
unless it's very interesting. Oh, but you don't trust him to replace Madsen?
Dude, Michael Madsen's got to get work where he can. And then, I mean, it was either Buck or Michael Bowen or Jonathan Lorraine who plays the truck driver who gets
no. I don't want to put Josh Gad in that sequence.
I don't either. So he's going to be Ranger Edgar McGraw, a Texas Ranger and son of Earl McGraw, who is the Texas Ranger who investigates the Wedding Chapel massacre.
Oh, there you go. All right, yeah. Josh Gad, it was not in the cards. It's not your type of movie. We've found your limit. A female-led, female-centric action kung fu movie. Maybe that's where Josh Gad hits the ceiling.
To think of the things we've been able to effortlessly, to think of the things that we've been able to seamlessly inject him into, and this is difficult. It speaks to this movie's the plight of the Tarantino film.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was the Josh Gad Minute. Let's close it with trivia.
So this is worth bringing up. There are more full-length articles on it. I don't want to go too deep into. Obviously, the Harvey Weinstein stuff's pretty well known, and Julio and myself don't need to give him any more platform than is deserved. He's where he should be right now. But something that came out of that was a story from the set of this, and there's an interview with Tarantino I was thumbing through earlier today, and you can find that and listen to it, or read it rather if you'd like. But just bringing up, near the end of filming, Thurman was injured in a crash while filming the scene in which she drives to Bill. According to Thurman, she was uncomfortable driving the car and asked a stunt driver to do it. Tarantino assured her that the car and road were safe. She lost control of the car and hit a tree, suffering a concussion and damage to her knees. According to Thurman, Miramax would only give her the crash footage if she signed a document, quote, releasing them of any consequences of her future pain or suffering. Tarantino was apologetic, but his and Thurman's relationship became bitter for years afterwards.
Wow.
Thurman said that after the car crash, she, quote, went from being a creative contributor and performer to being like a broken tool. Miramax eventually released the footage in 2018 after Thurman went to the police following the accusations of sexual abuse by Harvey Weinstein. So she didn't get that footage until that came out, and that was part of it. And the Tarantino interview about it is with Deadline, and it's from February 5th of 2018. And just to give like a brief overview, the way it begins is the New York Times article in which Uma Thurman finally told her story was a gut punch for anyone to read, particularly because the allegations against Harvey Weinstein were overshadowed by footage of the car accident she endured in Kill Bill. Since it was all bundled into her accusations of sexual assault against Weinstein, there seemed to be a connective subtext of male anger towards women and the idea she was pressed to just get in the car and do this. Thurman said she didn't want to drive in that scene after someone told her it wasn't up to snuff. And then we see the crash footage. Tarantino just responds to that, which is the footage I gave her. And so I guess he was tied into that a little bit too. And not any real litigation came from it. But, we talk about in the episode, they were really simpatico in putting this movie together. And like even the story that said that they began kind of puzzle piecing together some of the ideas for it during Pulp Fiction. And that sucks. It sucks that, there's limits to what I think you can be expecting someone to do in your movie. But especially when it's like fucking Uma Thurman, it's like a legitimate, it's not like an extra or something that you should feel that you can bully into doing something for you. Like it's ridiculous.
I think it's just weird that insurance-wise, they would let the star of the movie do this stunt.
Right? Yeah.
That's just bad business.
It's like in Dark Knight or Batman Begins, like Christian Bale, you're really going to jump off that building. We'll just see what happens. But yeah, it's certainly, I didn't really remember much of this because I remember the Weinstein thing. I remember, obviously, and that was like dominating headlines and shit. And I remember her coming forward with it. I didn't remember this part of it though. And that's kind of why I just thumbed through that interview a little bit, because Tarantino is he can be very, very curt when he doesn't want to speak on a subject or something. So it's weird.
Yeah, I always wonder whenever you see collaborators stop collaborating, I'm like, what's the story there, if there is a story? In this case, obviously there was. Sometimes I think it's just that their careers kind of like drift apart, right? Like he only made one movie with Travolta, so I'm not wondering why he didn't cast him again. He's made almost every movie with Sam Jackson. So if he stopped casting Sam Jackson in his movies, I'll be like, what happened, right?
Yeah, if Christoph Waltz or it doesn't have something to do with his next movie, or Leo, because Leo's been
right.
Yeah,
and Uma Thurman. I mean,
yeah.
Pulp Fiction and then Kill Bill, and then you would think, okay, well, is she gonna show up in anything else? And she doesn't. So I did not know that. I think I remember, I know Uma Thurman was vocal when the Weinstein stuff happened, but I didn't know the details. So It's man, that sucks. Like that sucks for her. I think that was very shitty behavior from everybody else.
Yeah, that's really fucked up. That whole thing about like, if we talked about footage that got into the wrong hands, we'd be here all day. But I hate that it took that long for things to be right, and that, yeah, she absolutely should have, like, give me that so I can fucking do what I want with it or destroy it, because I didn't want to do this in the first fucking place.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, the only way you can do that is sign away all liability. And it's every time I revisit that subject, it really is frustrating, to say the very, very, very least.
But no, what she's saying though about like what she was like after the accident, is she talking about during the Kill Bill shoot, or is she talking about how it affected her career post Kill Bill? Like, where she's saying that she stopped being a collaborator and just became like a broken tool? Is she talking about the remainder of the shoot? Right? Because I've only seen Volume 2 once. Haven't rewatched it for the next episode yet, but in my memory, like, she never loses that energy that she has in the performances. We praise her performance in Volume 1 in the episode. It's very much like she's the spotlight's on her, and you can tell that she's invested and she's like all in on this. And I wonder now, knowing this, if I'm gonna notice a dip at some point in Volume 2, and you'd be like, oh, that's where everything stopped. Like, I can see if you feel that your production is treating you, apart from like the actual physical injuries, if you feel betrayed by the people you're working with, then of course you're going to stop giving your all. You're going to have reservations, either consciously or subconsciously. So
I think it's something we might circle back around to with part 2.
All right. Well, so far, hashtag Team Uma.
Tarantino owns the, quote, Pussy Wagon, and drove as his everyday vehicle to promote the release of Kill Bill Volume 2. He licensed use of it for the Missy Elliott music video, I'm Really Hot. It also appears in the video for Telephone by Lady Gaga and Beyonce. Which, speaking of which, man, did you see Beyonce at the fucking Super Bowl?
No.
That woman's just like a walking statue. It's ridiculous. Jack Nicholson, Kurt Russell, Mickey Rourke, and Burt Reynolds all passed on playing Bill. Out of those 4, who would be the most interesting? Jack?
Man, unmistakable voice. It's mostly voice. It's only voice in Volume 1.
I don't know. Jack, and I can see Burt also just being like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, think of Burt Reynolds and the way he operated, and think of him working with Tarantino. I'm not sure he might have driven a car into Tarantino.
Beaten him up to within an inch of his life. You apologize to Uma Thurman right now.
I think he said droven, which of course I meant to say driven, but things get loosey-goosey with Tarantino films.
Yeah.
Tarantino originally intended to cast a Japanese actress to play O-Ren Ishii, but before casting began, he saw Lucy Liu's work in Shanghai Noon and immediately changed O-Ren into a Chinese Japanese American so that Liu could play the part. Julio, you ever seen Shanghai Noon?
Is that the first one or the second one?
Shanghai Noon is they made 2 of those, the Jackie Chan, Owen Wilson comedies.
Yeah. I've only seen one. I'm pretty sure I saw the first one, and obviously I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, it's from 2000. Sadly, when reading that, I was hoping he was going to say that he saw Charlie's Angels, and he was like, this is my girl right here.
Shanghai Nights. That's the sequel.
Okay. Approximately $60,000 of the movie's budget was used on swords and sword accessories. Now that is just something you read and you're like, dudes rock, And speaking of the budget, $30 million. This baby had a box office return of a little bit over $180 million.
And then they're like, and we have Volume 2 coming up.
The sword budget. We got to double it, man. Double it. According to Tarantino, the most difficult part of making the film was, quote, trying to take myself to a different place as a filmmaker and throw my hat in the ring with other great action directors, as opposed to dialogue scenes he was known for. The House of Blue Leaves sequence, in which the bride battles dozens of Yakuza soldiers, took 8 weeks to film. 6 weeks over schedule. Tarantino wanted to create, quote, one of the greatest, most exciting sequences in the history of cinema. The crew eschewed computer-generated imagery in favor of practical effects.
Hey.
Used in the 1970s Chinese cinema. particularly by the director Chang Che, including the use of fire extinguishers and condoms to create spurts of explosions of blood. Tarantino told his crew, "Let's pretend we're little kids and we're making a Super 8 movie in our backyard. You don't have all this shit. How would you achieve the effect? Ingenuity is important here." I think the amount of time it took to finish that, I think Pulp Fiction was filmed in like 7 weeks. So the entirety of that movie was less than at least at what it took to film this finale here.
Well,
And
I know hindsight's 2020, but who made that schedule? Like, who thought that that was going to take 2 weeks? I understand that 8 weeks is excessive, but having seen the movie, right? Like, who was it? The producer that made the schedule? Tarantino? Did Tarantino tell him, "Yeah, don't worry, we'll nail it in 2 weeks," fully knowing that there was no way.
yeah, sure, that'll work. I don't mean to speak out of line, but I don't consider it to be one of the greatest, most exciting sequences in the history of cinema.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Which one is it then, Alex?
Well, I could name some, but I don't know what. I don't know.
But the hospital thing in T2, not the hospital, the when they go into Cyberdyne.
I mean, that's awesome. Just action sequence, the getaway, like when they're driving through LA and the drainage, like the concrete gutters and shit that they're driving through. I think personally, just keeping it with Tarantino, the climax of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is more entertaining and engaging than this. But you know,
well, maybe he feels the same way now.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. The conclusion of Halloween Kills, when the townspeople just beat the shit out of him, and then Michael no-sells it and kills everybody. Oh no, there you go. Okay, the rave massacre in Freddy vs. Jason is more entertaining than this.
I'm sorry, I thought we were taking this seriously.
I am being serious. For Kill Bill, I mean, there's all, as with any Tarantino film, you can find a ton of little quips, anecdotes, and whatnot, but I felt those were the big ones to hit on.
That will do it. I mentioned it on the episode, in the real talk part. I'll mention it here too. There's a pretty cool book if you like Kill Bill and somehow you're not aware of it. It's the Kill Bill Diary. It's supposed to be a collection of. It's just David Carradine's diary from production, and it's. I don't know how much of it is massaged by a real writer, or if this is really they just took his notebook and published it. But it's a pretty interesting view from obviously one of the key players in the duology or whatever you want to call it, and yeah, there's a lot of interesting insights from Bill himself. He does. I didn't mention this in the episode, Alex, but there's one chapter or whatever where he details the Harry Knowles visit to the set, and I think David Carradine is like, who the fuck is Harry Knowles? But Tarantino is just rolling the red carpet because he knows, right? Like, this is. At the time, Harry Knowles was king shit in the geekdom. So, of course, him writing something in A Cool News about the production of Kill Bill was a big deal. So they were treating him, they were giving him the tour. And David Carradine was just like, I don't know what's happening. Who is this guy?
Another movie that came out in 2003 that went one step above was Marcus Nispel's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Remember, they have Harry Knowles' head on a platter in that movie?
Yes, that's called clairvoyance. just saw the future. Anyway, that's it for this warm-up of Kill Bill Volume 1. As we said, Kill Bill Volume 2 just around the corner, along with our 200th episode celebration. Watch them back to back. Let's see, report back and tell us. We didn't do that. We watched Volume 1, record it, and then we have Volume 2 scheduled sometime in the near future. But that's it for right now. Thank you for watching as usual. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and we'll talk to you again soon.